All right, let's talk about assessment. We've all been there, right? That feeling when you're learning something new and you're just not sure if you're on the right track? Well, today we're going to completely reframe that. Forget about assessment as some scary final exam. Instead, think of it as your own personal GPS for learning. It's a tool that tells you where you are, where you're going, and the best way to get there. So let's dive in. So let's just kick things off with this one big question. When you hear the word assessment, do you picture a finish line, or do you picture a roadmap that guides you along the way? Seriously, how you answer that one question can change absolutely everything.
So what even is assessment? Well, when you strip it all away, it's just this: the process of gathering data. That's it. It's not about judgment, it's not about a final grade, it's simply about collecting information so we can get a clear picture of what's actually going on.
Okay, but gathering data is just the beginning, right? This is where it gets really interesting. Assessment is just step one. Step two is evaluation. That's where you look at the data and make some judgments. But the most important part, the real reason we do any of this, is step three, decision-making. This is where we use all that info to actually improve things. It's a cycle, you see, not a one-and-done deal. So let's dig into our first type of assessment, and it fits our GPS idea perfectly. It's called formative assessment. You can think of it as those little check-ins your GPS gives you while you're still on the road. Hey, there's traffic ahead. Maybe try this other route. That kind of thing.
The whole point here is to monitor learning as it's happening. This is not about a grade, it's about giving feedback right away so both the teacher and the student can adjust course on the fly. This is what we call assessment for learning. It's all about getting better.
So what does this actually look like? Well, think about really low-stakes stuff. Quick activities like sketching out a concept map to see how ideas link together, or trying to boil down a whole lecture into just one sentence. It's all about spotting strengths and weaknesses early on so you can fix any problems before they get bigger. All right, so if formative is the journey, then you've got to have the final destination. And that brings us to the other side of the coin, summative assessment. Now, this is the one we're probably all a little too familiar with.
Its goal is totally different. This isn't about checking in. It's about evaluating what a student has learned after a chapter, a unit, or a whole course is done and dusted. It's about comparing their performance to a standard. This is assessment of learning.
And you know exactly what these are. We're talking about the big stuff, the high-stakes moments, the midterm, that final project you spent weeks on, the big term paper. These are all designed to measure the final product, to give a clear evaluation of what was learned over time.
Okay, I love this because it just lays it all out so clearly. On one side, you have formative, which is for learning. The whole goal is to improve, it happens during the journey, and it's focused on the process. On the other side, you've got summative. That's of learning. The goal is to evaluate. It happens after you've arrived, and it's all about the final product. See the difference? It's huge.
So, we've been talking a lot about the teacher doing the assessing. But what if they're not the only one? What if we could empower students to be co-pilots on their own learning journey? That's where self and peer assessment come in, and this is a real game changer. Yeah, this question says it all, doesn't it? Who's holding the map? When we start bringing in self and peer assessment, we're basically handing the map over to the students, at least for part of the trip. The teacher isn't the only navigator anymore. Now look, this isn't some magic wand. There are definitely two sides to this coin. The upsides are massive. It gets students more involved, and seeing someone else's work can be a light bulb moment for improving your own. But, yeah, there are challenges. Students can be hesitant to critique their friends, and if it's not handled well, it can be pretty demotivating. So if you're going to do it, you've got to do it right. And it all comes down to having a clear plan. You start by showing everyone what good feedback looks like, maybe using anonymous examples. You give them specific questions to answer, not just, is this good? And crucially, you have to build in time for them to actually use the feedback to get better.
Okay, so we've looked at the different kinds of assessment and who can do it, but now let's get to the foundation, the two absolute must-have tools you need to build that roadmap in the first place.
It really all begins with knowing your destination. That's what learning goals are all about. They answer that simple, powerful question: where am I going? When these are crystal clear, everyone knows exactly where the journey is supposed to end up.
Right. So if the learning goal is the destination on the map, then success criteria are the turn-by-turn directions. They answer the question, how am I going? These are the little signposts along the way that let students know if they're still on the right path. And this is the real magic right here.
When students have both of those things, the destination and the signposts, they are no longer just passive passengers. They can check their own progress, they can make their own adjustments, they can get in the driver's seat of their own education.
So let's wrap it all up with this final thought. After reframing assessment as a GPS, as a roadmap, as something we can do together, how will you, whether you're a teacher or a learner, help turn it from a final judgment into an ongoing productive conversation? Something to think about.